Well, it's 2 o'clock, so let's get started. I'm David Shawacre, and I'm Wide Horizon's current board chairman. Welcome to the Wide Horizon 2020 annual meeting. Thank you for your participating in this online meeting, which is certainly unusual for all of us. Of course, we would have preferred a traditional meeting together with you in person at the Wide Horizon campus. Nevertheless, let's get started with a reading from our beloved leader, Mary Baker Eddy, from First Church and Miscellany, page 210. What our leader says: Beloved Christian scientists, keep your mind so filled with truth and love that sin, disease, and death cannot enter them. It is plain that nothing can be added to the mind already full. There is no door through which evil can enter, and no space for evil to fill in a mind filled with goodness. Good thoughts are an impervious armor. Clad therewith, you are completely shielded from the attacks of error of every sort. And not only yourselves are safe, but all whom your thoughts rest upon are thereby benefited. Now let's have a few moments of silent prayer, followed by the repetition of the sixth tenet. And we solemnly promise to watch and pray for that mind to be in us, which was also in Christ Jesus, to do unto others as we would have them do unto us, and to be merciful, just, and pure. Let's continue. Traditionally, the first item on the board report is to report the results of the election, which are then ratified by the ballots cast and then approved at the meeting. This year, 2 board members who will have completed their full 9-year term permitted by the bylaws will be leaving the board at the conclusion of this meeting. No new candidates are offered at this time. The board will be pleased to entertain any proposed candidates suggested by any member who could then be appointed for this year by the board and voted on at the next annual meeting. The board members leaving are Lydia Roberts and myself. Those continuing for the next year are Jennifer Babcock, Doug Ismarian, Andrea Jenks McCormick, Doug Paddy, and Bob Ryman. As you've read, the theme for this year's meeting is Christian Science Nurses as Witnesses to Divine Law. We are looking forward to listening to today's speaker, Christie Hanzlik, who will then share her inspiration on this topic soon. First, we will give several reports of past year's developments at Wide Horizon. Because of holding this meeting online, our reports are shorter and more succinct than usual. Was that a quiet applause that I heard? So in that spirit, let me say that from the board's perspective, this has been a very challenging year. Wide has operated this year at about half capacity for nearly 12 months, and the global pandemic certainly has been a far greater challenge. The good news is that your donations have more than offset the losses from operations. Complying with the strict state requirements related to the pandemic has put an extra strain on everyone, Christian Science nurses and staff, but especially on Wide Horizon's Director of Christian Science Nursing and our Executive Director. We are so grateful for their continual excellent management during this trying time. But in spite of this year's unusual challenges, there has been progress in other ways. This includes updating Wide's employee retirement plan to conform to new IRS regulations and reconstituting the investment committee, while continuing with the expertise provided by financial advisor Linda Lights of Peace and Mind Financial Planning. We especially acknowledge and thank our wonderful, dedicated Christian Science nursing staff, and we're also sincerely grateful for the conscientious work done by our support staff, which includes activities, food service, housekeeping, maintenance, and administration. We also appreciate each of you who so lovingly support the activities of Wide Horizon. We value your prayers, your volunteer service, and your special support to individual guests. Of course, without the financial support that you so generously give, it would be even more challenging to sustain Wide Horizon now and in the future. So thank you for joining us today. We are grateful for the many ways you can and do support the healing ministry and mission of Wide Horizon.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Ismarian, and I currently serve as treasurer of Wide Horizon. Gratitude is the first thought that came to me when preparing to write this report. At Wide Horizon, we have so much to be grateful for. We are grateful for the dedicated Christian Science nurses who provide the healing care that is the primary mission of the organization. We are grateful for all of the other staff members who support their work. We are grateful for all of the volunteers, practitioners, churches, foundations, members of Wide Horizon, and other donors who contribute their metaphysical support and financial resources that are the means for fulfilling this vital mission. This year, I must also add a special thanks to my predecessor as treasurer, Lydia Roberts, who has served for several years in this capacity. She and our chairman, David Shawacre, are each finishing their 9th year of service as directors. Their sincerity, thoughtfulness, wisdom, and love for their fellow man has been evident to all of us who have worked with them on the board of directors, and their dedication to Wide Horizon serves as an ongoing source of inspiration. To say that the past year has been an eventful one seems like a major understatement. You will soon hear in other reports about the operational changes that have been necessary. With respect to the financial status of Wide Horizon, I am pleased to report that divine love has continued to meet all of our needs. In the church manual of the First Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts, page 76, Mrs. Eddy provides that the board of directors report at the annual meeting the amount of funds which the church has on hand, the amount of indebtedness, and of its expenditures for the year. This provision will guide our report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020. A key metric that we monitor is financial liquidity. This includes checking and savings accounts, as well as investments. For the past fiscal year, our total funds on hand increased by 37%. Turning to our annual expenditures and operating activity, we have seen increases in net assets for both fiscal years 2019 and 2020. Total long-term liabilities at the end of this past fiscal year were $373,000. $331,000 of this amount, 89%, consisted of a Paycheck Protection Program loan from Vector Bank. Since all of these funds were used for payroll expenses, this note qualifies for forgiveness under the terms of the CARES Act passed by Congress earlier this year. In closing, I will briefly return to the opening topic of gratitude. I am grateful each and every day for the blessings that Wide Horizon is bringing to our community, and to all of you who make these blessings possible. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Norm Williams, the Director of Development and Outreach here at Wide Horizon. I would like to share with you my experience, which brought me here, my thoughts about fundraising, and building relationships with donors. When I started a career in sales many years ago, where I worked partially for commissions for a living, among my first lessons was about the need to be clear that commissions are symbols of divine love's infinite care, and not my means to welfare, happiness, and fulfillment. Of course, I had to be grateful for divine love's supply, for as we all know, gratitude is riches. Yet the emphasis had to be on appreciating God's spiritual provision first, rather than merely on material supply. So instead of experiencing the ups and downs of sales commissions based on good or bad performance, or of money coming and going, I realized that my welfare and stability were dependent on spirit, on God's continual goodness. In that way, my substance was changeless and permanent, rather than vulnerable to variable market conditions and customer desires. I think this approach reflects what Mrs. Eddy writes, quote, "Substance is that which is eternal and incapable of discord and decay," unquote. I had to learn that the substance of my work was first helping meet customer needs rather than earning a dollar. For if the dollar was first and then the customer needs, my welfare would have been subject to possible discord of market conditions. Instead, I could experience the constancy of spirit, God, meeting needs at all times and in all circumstances. Those lessons stood me in good stead when I entered the world of fundraising, where success is often measured by what money is coming in the door. Instead of taking that view, I chose to see Wide Horizon substance as a reflection of divine love's care for man, as manifested in Christian Science nursing, and that we are servants of divine mind, God, and not the almighty dollar. And so I see our relationship with donors as one of partnership in helping meet the needs of those who are cared for at Wide Horizon. In that partnership, we are first and foremost seeking donor understanding of Wide's mission, its place in our lives, and engaging with us by praying, volunteering, or attending events. In the past year, we are grateful to donors who have helped meet the human need at Wide. Contributions helped Wide Horizon pay our dedicated staff and Christian Science nurses who gave approximately 30,000 hours of care to guests last year. Contributions have included $300,000 from individuals like you, $40,000 from churches, $190,000 from foundations, and $1.8 million from estates. All of this helped us cover the significant deficit of operational revenues to expenses. While donations were exceptionally good last year, due in large part to estate gifts, there is still a great need to fill due to the projected shortfall in revenues from operations this year. Our goal in 2021 is to reach 1.25 million in giving to cover this gap. While raising the funds to meet this year's needs, we will also be planting seeds for covering future needs through planned giving. In any given year, up to 50% of our budget comes from planned gifts, such as bequests, stock, IRA rollovers, annuities, and life insurance plans. We will be reaching out to you through emails and printed materials to provide information on how to include Wide in your planned giving. Our goal in 2021 is to raise $650,000 in planned gifts, which is just over 50% of our budget. To help us attain our objective, there is one large bequest we already know of that is coming to us this fiscal year. A few other items. As a partner, we will keep you informed about how Wide Horizon is doing throughout the pandemic with occasional updates by email or phone call. Also, due to the pandemic, we are prevented from holding events here at Wide. We are considering some new events held through Zoom. If you have any ideas, please share them with us. Soon, we will launch the end of the year campaign with a matching opportunity and a goal of $150,000 in individual giving in order to meet our budget. But all that being said, our top goal this year is actually to see the abundance, continuity, eternality, and harmony of our substance, which comes from Spirit, God. We invite you to join with us in praying about this. Thank you all for all you are doing to care for and support Wide Horizon.
Hi, I'm Brian Bettiger. As Executive Director, I believe I've set the record for the longest term as an administrator at Wide Horizon. It must be that view to the west. I'll begin with this from Psalms. Let us exalt his name together. In exalting his name together, perhaps each of you listening today has grown spiritually in new ways, feeling hope in greater good, learning to trust God more, seeing the light of Christ shining in daily life, practicing a higher degree of Christian love and understanding, and staying in good health during these past months. Hasn't 2020 thrown a number of wild pitches toward us all? Since March, Wide Horizon has continued to have nearly all hands on deck to weather the seeming storms, the ebb and flow of mortal mind due to COVID-19 and other erroneous influences of human thought. We've striven to keep our vision clear, keeping the ship Wide Horizon afloat, avoiding surges, shoals, sandbars, or the shallows. We've used some patchwork to meet payrolls and staffing during these months. We've done our best to keep the high goal of truth before thought, keeping calm and trusting God. The Gospels record that in stormy conditions, Christ Jesus stated, "Peace, be still." And the storm ceased immediately. Now that's power. And ahoy, we've also done a lot of casting the proverbial net on the right side of the ship, finding a full catch of fish in daily good works. We have turned so-called limitations into opportunities to grow stronger, and shall I say, smarter. One example is the multiple Zoom meetings, whether for accreditation inspections, board meetings, connecting with colleagues, working with other professionals, or our meeting together today. For many years, it has been such a privilege to work at Wide Horizon, side by side with many spiritually minded individuals who support this organization. Every day, we see greater teamwork, kindness, creativity, and resilience expressed on our campus. We feel the gratitude and support from our field. Our hearts have been warmly touched by the donations and loving notes sent to us. More recently, we are grateful for being able to selectively admit guests and allow family visitation to patients, still in compliance with guidelines and regulations as a state-licensed nursing care facility. Christian Science nurses so ably handle all types of practical needs with such loving care. Their focused metaphysical approach in seeing God's man, made in Spirit's image and likeness, makes all the difference. They express genuine tenderness in their work, which is infused with love. Such expression of Spirit, love, is evident among all Wide Horizons employees. Our guests and patients feel this holy, supportive atmosphere of peace, quietude, and love. This is conducive to progress, restoration, and healing. Our maintenance staff tenderly cares for the grounds and buildings, professionally completing many small projects throughout the year. Our housekeeping staff lovingly cleans and maintains order in all of the living spaces. A favorite poet once penned, "Order is the heaven's first law." And food service staff thoughtfully prepares delicious, high-quality meals which are lovingly served. This caring nature consistently shows the loving care our support staff feel for their work and our guests. Recently, a couple of much-needed capital improvements were made. The inoperable, unsafe 30-year-old dumbwaiter or service elevator was replaced, and the 30-year-old commercial air conditioning unit for the main building has been replaced with a new energy-efficient unit. Gratefully, these projects were lovingly funded by a generous foundation. We are blessed. This year, Wide Horizons senior management team has continued to listen and be led by our highest sense of right when making the difficult decisions that affect and are so foreign to our work. These include reading and abiding by pertinent government agency materials, restricting admissions and visitations, staff wearing face masks while working, and taking temperatures daily, and so on. And we wash our hands so often, mine have turned a shade lighter. Beloved moms would be proud. So as stated, Wide Horizon continues to be in compliance with the many guidelines and restrictions required at a nursing facility. But please note, none of these requirements is consent to error. Although there appears to be concessions made to material methods, I have thought and stated aloud a number of times, suffer it to be so now. In fact, our leader in Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy, wrote of our master, "Jesus's concessions to material methods were for the advancement of spiritual good." It is my heartfelt hope that the countless prayers and loving actions in regard to material methods during the past months will advance mankind more in the demonstration of spiritual good. So, when shelter in place or safer at home was implemented, we knew everyone's true shelter is under the Almighty's wing. While we wash our hands a lot, we can also purify our thoughts of anything which is not good, is not of God. And while we may be keeping our physical distance, we know that nothing can separate us from the love of God. And while we're more at our homes, we're still being quiet and still, waiting on God in holy obedience. Now, also one plus point of being categorized as an essential worker is my long commute to work has never been better. Through divine love, our collective mission in Christian Science is to rid and heal the world of sin. In doing so more consistently, we will see greater healing of sin and sickness in our communities, nursing homes, families, individual lives, and ultimately in our beloved country and for all mankind. There have been numerous moments when I have felt overwhelmed, literally praying, sometimes sitting on a rock, from Psalms. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. It is the rock of truth which has sustained and strengthened me and others in our work at Wide Horizon. It is this structure of truth on which the idea of Wide Horizon is built. Ultimately, this rock is divine love, which is always higher than I. During this time, our team at Wide has often had to trust in God's all-encompassing plan to lead us where we need to go next. In essence, as Spirit's image and likeness, we all live and move and have our being in God, good. You listening today are all cherished members of the Wide Horizon family, each of you. Together, our prayer, our desire is to establish a clear, calm conviction that through the love of God our Savior, all will be well. All must be well. All is well. That's from the Christian Science Hymnal 350. In addition, I am so grateful to both Lydia Roberts and David Shawacre for their combined 18 years of service on the board of directors. Lydia has lovingly served as treasurer and secretary for much of her tenure. She has been an intelligent and invaluable professional resource. And David has been so understanding and supportive throughout his years as president of the board. Each has selflessly served with solid metaphysics, genuine dedication, joy, humor, and love. Their support has meant more to me in my work than words can describe. So, adapting a line from the movie Toy Story, I am eternally grateful. Lastly, Mary Baker Eddy wrote in Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, the discoverer of Christian Science finds the path less difficult when she has the high goal always before her thoughts than when she counts her footsteps in endeavoring to reach it. And in her poem, The New Century, she stated, "Love hath one race, one realm, one power. May the God of peace, divine love, be with you on your path always." Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sue Wood. I'm the Director of Christian Science Nursing here at Wide Horizon. This is a really different way to greet you all this year, but we hope you will feel our genuine affection for you just the same as always. Even though we can't chat during the breaks, I hope you'll feel free to share any comments or questions you may have with us through email or by phone. Annual meeting is always a good opportunity to stop and take stock of the previous year, thinking about what we've accomplished and how the year has gone. Well, every year is different, but this year has been really different. I think we'd all agree. Who could have predicted at the beginning of the year that in the course of a few short months, we'd be wearing masks while we work and taking our temperature when we arrive at work every day? For the most part, we've adapted to these inconveniences without letting them become a distraction. We know where our safety comes from and the safety of our guests. It's from the demonstration of the spiritual facts of being that Christian Science explains. From the ever-present law of God, good. The Colorado Department of Health has quite a lengthy list of regulations that facilities like Wide Horizon is required to follow. And we've had to work through them and come up with a plan of compliance that satisfies the health department and is workable for our employees and patients or guests. When the health department visited us for a surprise inspection early on during the pandemic, we passed every aspect of the inspection with no issues. They did not question our right to shield our patients from regulations such as wearing masks and having their temperature taken and other vital statistics measured, as long as the staff was in full compliance. We felt this was a victory for the rights of Christian Scientists to practice spiritual healing. As the rules have loosened up a bit, we've been able to have visits from family members. The visits need to be outside and the visitors need to wear masks and maintain proper distance. This has certainly been a blessing for everyone involved. A phone call or even a Zoom call doesn't really bring the same kind of satisfaction as an in-person visit. We've been able to resume limited use of our dining room, with each person sitting at their own table and all the tables spaced about 10 feet apart. By being very careful about new admissions, we've been able to admit a few new patients in the last couple months. In each case, there needed to be a clear indication that the individual was completely free of the coronavirus. And of course, we can't be grateful enough that no one at Wide Horizon has been affected by the virus. Our other major challenge this year has been the loss of Christian Science nurses due to retirement or relocation. Since January this year, 6 Christian Science nurses have left Wide Horizon. That's a huge proportion from a staff of about 20 Christian Science nurses. Thankfully, over the course of the year, we've been able to hire 4 individuals who were eager to start Christian Science nurses training. The 4 are all progressing nicely through the training program, and they have become valuable, well-respected, and well-loved members of our team. While our staff is reduced in numbers, and we have a larger percentage of people at the beginning of their training than we've had in a while, we also have fewer patients right now, so the situation has been pretty manageable. We endeavor to know and demonstrate each day that God is providing for all our needs and the needs of Christian Scientists in our field. In other good news, a Christian Science nurse who joined our staff 2 years ago after working at another Christian Science facility during her breaks from Principia College, finished up her training at Wide Horizon and became journalisted a few months ago. When I think about Christian Science nurses and the work they're doing for our cause, several familiar quotations from Science and Health and the Bible come to me. First, I think about pouring in truth through flood tides of love, and also about where Mrs. Eddy says, the tender word and Christian encouragement of an invalid, pitiful patience with his fears. And I remember the phrase from the Bible that says, nothing is too hard for God. These devoted workers do each express that tenderness and pitiful patience and the strength that keeps moving forward no matter the picture to be addressed. The patients or guests here are pretty remarkable in their expression of God's qualities as well. The diligence, tenacity, depth of spiritual understanding, strength, joy, gratitude, and faithfulness they express is way beyond any personal capacity to stay strong or hopeful. It's purely reflection. One of the patients gave a testimony at our Thursday testimony meeting, saying how wonderful it is to wake up every morning with such a feeling of joy. She testified to 2 recent healings, both of which she prayed about with her Christian Science practitioner for a number of months. The first was a healing of a sore on her back, on the side she sleeps on all the time. The other was a healing of hearing loss, which, though it took a while to work through, when the full return of her hearing came, it was a quick and complete reversal of the claim. Another of our patients had a fall from her commode in the middle of the night. The Christian Science nurses heard something and went to check. They found the patient lying on the floor. She had fallen forward onto her face and gotten one leg tangled in the commode chair. The Christian Science nurses were pretty concerned about her. They lifted her gently back into her bed and called her Christian Science practitioner. They reported to the next shift that there was a lot of bruising on her face. At the time of the 7 a.m. check, the Christian Science nurse went in expecting to find the patient in her bed, but instead discovered that she had made her way into the bathroom on her own and was getting ready for her day. There was no evidence of bruising on the face or leg, no limping, no evidence that she'd ever had a fall. Well, that's what a lifetime of prayer and study of Christian Science does for people, isn't it? As we move through this belief of pandemic, we are endeavoring to continue to serve our field in the best way possible. Please don't hesitate to call us if there's some way that you think we may be able to help you. And thank you to each of you for your interest in and support of Wide Horizon and Christian Science nursing.